Dr. Sovik for this kind introduction, and please allow me to share my screen. And while I'm sharing the screen, could
Yeah,
you please provide me rights to
you
share the screen?
yeah you have to be make host. Yeah, I'll
Guru?
request our IT person to kindly make you the host or co-host.
Sir, permission given, sir.
Permission
Okay.
given. Yes.
Okay, before I begin, I must thank Dr. Sovik for this kind invitation and to be one of the keynote speakers for this conference, which is acronymed as ICBT. So I must thank you, Sovik, for your kind invitation, which I accepted. Having accepted the invitation, Sovik wanted me to talk about COVID and its impact, and that is one topic that I don't want to speak about. And in the last 6 months, I would have been a part of at least half a dozen talks, and I've tried to consciously avoid COVID for obvious reasons, But Sovik said that it would be good if you can integrate COVID in the area of research that we would like to talk and try to integrate with the theme of the conference. So here I am, the first talk, and I must warn you, I'm no expert on pandemic and its impact on business, but whatever I'm going to talk about is my understanding of service research in the last 9 years post my PhD and how COVID possibly is going to impact service delivery and the operations of service firms. So I will try to limit my talk around those two dimensions. But before I begin, I must pay my regards and my homage to my late supervisor, Dr. A.K. Rao. Unfortunately, he passed away January this year. I could not meet him. I was in India, but for some reason we could not connect this year. My regards. If I am with you today, a large percentage of that comes from Dr. A.K. Rao and his way of guiding me. So all my homages, all my respect to my supervisor, who is always with me, even if he's not on this planet. With that, we should begin. And as we said, that today's topic is about service encounters in post-COVID times. And the theme of the conference, you must see, is on business IT enterprise architecture. So it's quite broad and generic. I will try to weave a story around business management and technology and try to give you a flavor of services. Now, service encounter. Let me begin with service encounter, and I will try to make it as laymanish as possible, so that everybody is on board. Even if you are not a service scholar, you are on board. So service encounter comprises of primarily two words, service plus encounter. So let me take you to the genesis of services. So service plus encounter gives you service encounter. But if you go back and try to understand how service has evolved, then let me take you to what does the word service come from? So the service word comes from the Latin word servus, which means slave, servant, or serf. Now, whenever I look up the definition, I always ask how many of our service providers actually behave like a slave or at least like a servant or a serf. Now, that's a big question to ask in the present times. How many of you are actually serving and not only geared towards profit, right? When I look up the meaning of encounter in dictionary, so Cambridge Dictionary defines encounter both as a noun and as a verb. So encounter is defined as a meeting with someone or something, right? So it could be an employee, it could be a technology, it could be the company, it could be any stakeholder of an organization, right? An encounter is also defined as an experience, right? So these are broadly the genesis of the term service encounter. Now, in the service domain, in the services marketing / management domain, service encounter has been traditionally defined, and I must remind you, service is a very young discipline. The first conversations around services started in early 80s with some of the stalwarts in our field like Len Berry, Parasuraman, Zeitmal, and Berry around early 80s, and it is growing since then. So in the initial days of services marketing, how did people define or understood service encounter? So SE stands for service encounter. The service encounters are were primarily understood as the dyadic interactions between customers and service providers or service firms. And they refer as distinct moments where customers interact with a concrete service interface. Now, I choose the words very carefully, and these are taken from well cited references. The service interface could be a human, the service interface could be a technology, service interface could be anywhere where a customer interacts with the firm, right? So that is the traditional definition of service encounter. Now that we call in the language of services as service encounter 1.0, but there are some synonymous terms that are used in the literature. So those who are service scholars today in the audience can concur with me that some of the terms which are synonymously used are touch points, moments of truth, and these days one term that is very common in the language of service scholar and marketing scholars is customer's journey. So when we look at different distinct service encounters and we try to plot them over a time period, we get something called as the customer journey. And mapping a customer's journey is one of the things that every organization is trying to figure out at the moment. What is the best way to do that and what are its implications? So these are some of the synonymous terms. If you want to tease out the differences, you can, but overall, on the surface, these mean more or less the same. Now, let me give you an example of a service encounter. We have done some work in the financial services sector, in the banking sector, when I was working in Britain with some colleagues from Nottingham and Coventry. And we looked at primarily the service interactions or service encounters between customers in the financial services sector. So let me talk about how my father, who is in his 70s, a handsome old fellow, and how he banks. Now, he still believes in the traditional banking encounters. So he still prefers to walk to his bank teller and does his banking transactions. However, if you compare with me, how I bank, I primarily bank sitting on my couch, on my tab, on my mobile phone. Now, I've chosen one example of a Bankwest. I'm a customer of Bankwest. In no way I'm promoting Bankwest, but I'm a customer of Bankwest. I'm a happy customer of Bankwest. Now, Bankwest recently developed something called a Halo Ring. So you don't need to carry your wallet. All your information is stored in a ring. And the ring is in your finger. You knock on the payment device, and the payment goes through. So that is a big difference between how my father encounters a bank and how I encounter a bank. And these two examples clearly distinguishes how service encounter literature has evolved in the last 30, 40 years, right? So that the traditional way of doing banking, why we care about service encounters? Why do we care about, why do we spend time, energy, money, effort, as an organization to understand service encounter? Because each positive service encounter, when I say positive means a customer has come to the bank, he wants to deposit a check, very simple transaction, how easy it is for him to do the transaction and whether he goes home with a happy feeling. That is a positive service encounter. So we want to understand, because every company wants to understand the quality perceptions of customers, whether the customer is happy or not, and whether the customer is willing to continue his relationship with me, the bank. So these are some of the outcome variables, traditional outcome variables that companies are interested in. So hence, we need to spend time, energy, effort, money, everything to understand service encounter. Let me take you back to service encounter 1.0. That is the traditional service encounter. And as marketeers, we love our triangles. As marketeers, we love our 2x2, 3x3 matrices. So how can I not love one triangle, right? So service encounter 1.0. One of the triangles that is very popular in the service domain is service triangle. I tried to customize a little bit to suit our discussion. So what are the three ends of a service triangle? The three ends are primarily customers, employees, and the service providers of the service. Now, the doctor has ordered that if there is an interaction, a positive interaction between all of these ends of the triangle, value evolves or value is created, right? Now, if there is a positive interaction between customers and service firms, we call that as external marketing. Now, in the language of Christian Gronros calls it making promises. Now, for example, if you have checked in a hotel and you want to spend 2 nights at a hotel, how peaceful your 2 nights are, whether you have a peaceful sleep. Those are some of the promises that I make as a hotel. So that is external marketing. Internal marketing is the interaction between the firm and the employees. And there is a big history of research on internal marketing, which is taking a new twist now where we have a research on frontline employees or organizational frontlines. So it's taking a rebirth in the service research domain, right? So this is called, Christian Gronros calls it enabling promises. When employees interact with customers, we call it as the delivery of the promise. Now, just before the start of our today's keynote, I received a package. I just bought a watch a couple of days ago, and the delivery man kept the watch. They promised 2 days, they delivered in 2 days, and that's how you create value. So I promised I will deliver your watch in 2 days, and I delivered your watch in 2 days. So I make promise, I enable promise, and I keep my promise or deliver my promise. So this is a traditional service triangle where you create value when all the arms of the triangle creates positive, right? So what Christian Gronros says in one of his recent articles in General Services Marketing is it's all about promise management. So service research or service domain is all about making promises and fulfilling that promise. So it's all about promise management. Fast forward. So that's traditionally my dad does that kind of an interaction. He still does that kind of interaction. But 10 years, 15 years down the line, say early 2000, mid 2000, excuse me, we had some papers published in Journal of Marketing and Journal of Service Research by Muter and her colleagues about self-service technologies or SSTs. So now the technology is making its entry into the domain of services. So technology infusion is happening in the service delivery domain or service encounter. So it's no more the human-to-human interaction. Now customers are also interacting with technology. So Bart Larvier and his colleagues in Journal of Business Research 2017 nicely captures this idea in the term service encounter 2.0. So the idea is very simple. And we are still with the same service triangle. So this diagram is adopted from Brody et al.'s work in marketing theory, I think 2009, around that. They published an article in marketing theory. So we still have external marketing, we still have internal marketing, we still have interactive marketing, and value is created. But what is happening is more and more technology is getting infused in how we interact. So just like service encounter is one of the foundational premise of services, interaction is one of the foundational elements of services and service encounters. So we just cannot create value without interaction. So it's not only a transactional phenomena, it's an interaction, it's a relationship, right? But what is happening is we have more and more technologies are coming in the form of AI, robotics, machine learning, deep learning, you name it, and it's there in the world. And if you look at this, technology is impacting every arm of the service triangle. How they are interacting is the question, and what is there for service firms to take it forward. Now let me take the positive view first. So if technology has a positive impact on each of these triangles, like external marketing, how we do our communication and advertising and stuff like that, how we interact with our employees, how our employees interact with our customers, each and every domain is being impacted by technologies, right? So days are not far that I will walk into a class with a robot. So robot and me will teach together, maybe 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line. I don't know. But yes, that is a very distinct possibility. But the whole dynamics is going to change, right? So I'm going to create value if there is a positive impact of these technologies. So some of these technologies like self-driving cars, but online retailing, IBM's Interact, and these are all some of the classic examples of what we call as disembodied AI, an AI which does not have a physical form, but it exists, right? And it is making its presence felt in the business world, in the service world. Along with disembodied AI, we also have something called embodied AI, where the AI has a physical form. And you can see a moving object which looks very much like you. And we call that as embodied AI. Now, there is a plethora of research in the last 2 to 3 years that has come in service literature about the pros and cons of AI. But if you read Tom Davenport's recent book called The AI Advantage, and there is another book from MIT Press called The Technology Fallacy, they clearly make a case that it's not about technology only, it's about people, right? It's about change management and how these technologies can be fine-tuned to have a positive impact is the burning question for all service providers, right? Now, as a result of this, if there are positive impacts, firms can create value, right? In terms of seamless customer experience, in terms of service convenience, in terms of personalized service, in terms of enjoyment, you name it, in terms of societal benefits. So when technology is our friend, they create all sorts of goodies for us, right? However, technology can also have a negative impact on all of these arms of the triangle, service triangle. Look at the centerpiece here. It's no more value creation, it's value destruction, right? Now, for example, recently we did a case study about a robot called Fabio. Fabio was a robot which was commissioned at one of the Scottish retailers. And as soon as it was commissioned, customers started getting scared of that robot, and the retailer had to actually decommission that robot. So there was some sort of a negative value creation or a negative impact of that robot happening when it came to interaction between the customer and the robot. So they had to decommission it. The case is forthcoming. Very soon it will come out in one of the premier case outlets, and we'll share that when it is published. Right? So there is a value destruction that is happening, at least between this interaction between employees and customers. So along with employees, you have the technology which is interacting with the customer, but in a negative way. So instead of value creation, value destruction. There's a lot of talk about value creation. We spend very less time on value destruction, which is very potent and very much possible if one small thing goes wrong, for example, Fabio, right? So how are we destroying value if we are not using technology to our advantage? So privacy issues. The other day, my wife was saying, I'm going to delete my Facebook account. I said, why? What happened? Now, it seems that somebody is always looking at me, what I'm doing, The moment I search up something, Facebook is full of that ad. So the other day, I was looking for a pet insurance. I recently had a pet. And the moment I was off Google and I was on Facebook, Facebook was full of. Even when I was in YouTube listening to some music, YouTube is full of. So there is some sort of algorithm running in the background who is always keeping a track of what I'm doing and trying to target me in the real time. But she doesn't like it. So she wants her privacy, right? Secrecy issues, financial and societal costs. Now, the Australian government is very concerned about these privacy issues. There are some cybersecurity threats. So technology not doing well can create all sorts of problems. There are people who are not ready to learn this technology the traditional way, like my father. He's happy traditional banking. He doesn't go to ATM machine to withdraw money. He doesn't like that. The time and the effort that it takes for him to learn, he's not ready to do that or spend that time and effort, right? So in that way, the new technology is not creating value for him, or rather destroying value for him. So there is kind of a duality here happening. So value creation and value destruction. Now, as a practitioner, we need to keep this duality of technology in mind, when we are thinking of implementing technology And that is very much coming out in this book called The AI Advantage or the Technology Fallacy, that let us not only look at the positive side of it, look at the negative side of it, but technology is all about enabling. Technology is not everything, it's the people. 2020 comes, transforms everything. Whatever we knew about business, how we operate business, how we run services, how we deliver service, everything is being transformed forever, I would say, right? We have not done any research on COVID. All the research that we are doing at the moment is work in progress. Maybe next year or next to next year, we will have some publications out. But given what we spend time and energy, we'll try to weave a story today. So 2020, the only story that I remember is COVID-19 coronavirus, social distancing, physical distancing, work from home, stay home, 2-meter distance. And, I'm learning swimming. I cannot even shake hand with my swimming instructor. What a shame it is, right? He's training me life skills and I cannot shake hand with him because I'm scared that I will contract a virus, right? So there is some sort of a value destruction that is happening. Now, it's no one's fault. It's not the service provider's fault. It's not the company's fault. It's not the customer's fault. It's not the community's fault. It's an external shock that has come and changed the dynamics of how we operate, right? I'm still with the service triangle. So what is happening now is technology was considered to be a disruptor. Now we have another disruptor, which is rewriting the rules of the game, right? And that is COVID-19. How is it disrupting? All the arms of the service triangle, it is impacting in a negative way, right? Now the employees, they are scared to touch any surface. If I go to my work, I'm scared to touch the knob of my door, of my office door. I'm scared to shake hands. And I'll tell you a story. I was having a lunch with my wife, I think a couple of months ago, and by chance, 2 of my colleagues came to the same restaurant. I extended my hand, one of them shook my hand, and one of them elbowed with me. Now, why? Why is it happening? Because some are scared, or most people are scared. So there is knowingly, unknowingly, there is a negative value creation or value destruction that is COVID is bringing. But along with that, I think there are some challenges, there are some opportunities also. So the challenge is, if there is a value destruction, the biggest question that is looming large on all of the service providers or most of the service providers at the moment is, how do I transform value destruction to value creation, right? That's the biggest challenge for service providers. So how do I make this negative effect to a positive effect? So COVID, of course, has transformed, has kind of ruined many businesses, but how we can transform that negative value creation or value destruction to a value creation kind of a domain. We need to ask those questions, because unless we ask those questions, we cannot move on as a race, the human race, right? So what is changing? Let us see. What is changing from Service Encounter 1.0 to Service Encounter 2.0? Something is changing. What is changing? Interactions are changing. And I must remind you, at the beginning we say, interactions are the foundational premise of service encounters. And interactions are changing as a result of technology infusion from Service Encounter 1.0 to Service Encounter 2.0. Right? So service encounters, primarily, it was a human-to-human interaction, right? But in SETO 2.0, like there is a new player, which is technology. So there is a technology interaction that is happening, and that is rewriting the games, right? So that is primarily the change that is happening, or that was happening pre-COVID era. What we argue in one of our research, ongoing research, that Service Encounter 2.0 is leading way or giving way to Service Encounter 3.0. There is a new reality that is emerging. There is a new, I'm sorry, my dog is creating some noise here. So a Service Encounter 3.0 is emerging, right? What is that? What is that Service Encounter 3.0? So we still have human-to-human interaction, like customer to customer, customer to employee, employee to employee. Human to technology is still there, but there is a new type of interaction that is coming, and that is changing everything. So C stands for customer, E stands for employee. So customer oblique employee to surface interaction. Now these days, even before I go and work on my computer at my office, I'm concerned whether should I touch it or not. I am not willing to touch the self-service technology device to pay at a grocery retailer because I'm concerned that the surface might have a virus, right? Now we are scared as a human, as a customer, as an employee. There is always someone who is cleaning the surfaces. So there is a new type of interaction that is happening, and we are scared of is interaction between human and surface, surface of anything, of your desk, of your tablet, of the payment device, right? Why? And all of these at the moment in Service Encounter 3.0, we are always scared of ill health or we are scared of death. That what happens if I contract the virus from the surface? So what shall we do as a service provider, as a service firm, right? So we are scared, we are sad, we are depressed. Now it's across the board, right? Regardless of the type of job you do, this is the real thing that is happening in the present times, right? So people are scared, people are suffering, right? So if people are suffering, we need service providers. And service providers have the capacity and the ability to become healers. Now, how can I heal the sufferers or the sufferings of the people, right? How can we create an environment where they feel safe? Safety is of primary concern. And I get these ideas from my latest reading, The Healing Organization by Raj Sisodia and Michael Gill. It's a fabulous read, and this healer term I adopted from there. These two books have very big influence on my thought process as an academic. Conscious Capitalism, which appeared a few years ago, which talks about bringing consciousness in the capitalistic system, right? So we need service providers which can act as healers in the post-COVID times. So what COVID has made or transformed the society where safety is the main concern for people. Now, safety is the multidimensional construct, right? Safety for my life, safety for my finance, safety for a whole gamut of things. So safety is the main concern. Now, today you're not concerned about fine dining, right? All you're concerned about is whether I have enough pasta sauce, enough rice, sweet potato in your house, right? So that you can get by the lockdown period. So you're not concerned about the psychological and those things. You're only concerned about the functional benefit. I eat, I survive, right? So Berry et al. In his recent piece in General Service Research talks about 4 types of safety dimensions, or 4 types of safety. And one of the primary safety dimension that, according to Berry, or even in our research, it is coming that information safety is what drives all other safety dimensions. So emotional safety, people are losing job in bulk, right? Hundreds and thousands of people all over the world are losing job. People are distressed. People are unhappy. So they are not emotionally safe. There is no physical safety also. I'm scared to touch even a surface, let alone a person, right? So we are scared to shake hands. We are always masked. And so we are concerned about all sorts of safety here. And if you look at that, information safety in a big way drives all other safety. But they are not like mutually exclusive. They are interdependent. They are interrelated, right? So there is an interrelationship between emotional safety and physical safety. There is an interrelationship between financial safety and physical safety. And there is an interrelationship between financial safety and emotional safety. All of these, in a way, is affecting our well-being, the psychological well-being of people, right? Not customers, not employees, the people. Right? So what is the challenge for service providers in the post-COVID times or during COVID times, right? Post-COVID, I don't know whether we will have a vaccine, whether it is going to cure COVID. I hope it does. But if it does not, then what is going to be the new abnormal? Now, we use often new normal. It's not going to be normal. Betty uses a term called new abnormal. I very much like that idea. It's not going to be normal again. It's going to take a decade, 2 decades to become normal again, right? So what should we do as a service provider? Now, service provider, I say, we have the capacity to change the world, to transform the world, right? We have the capacity to make people feel safe again. We don't want to make loyal customers anymore. We want to make customers who feel safe. So our dependent variables needs to be rethought, right? We want to make people feel embraced, not left alone, right? There was a recent book I was reading by Raj Sisodia and a colleague of his called Everybody Matters. So don't leave anybody behind. Take everybody along. So the burning question of our times, which are very turbulent, is whether employees, customers, communities, and we need to talk about communities, can trust the service firms to keep them safe and secure, right? It's not about selling the exquisite food. It's not about selling the fantastic suit. It's just making the people safe and secure. Can we do that? If we want to do that, we want to work on one of our traditional constructs in service marketing, service management, or service research, rebuild trust or build trust. And we can only build trust by reimagining service operations and marketing. How do we operate? How do we market our products? We need to rethink all of that. And this conference will be a nice platform where we rethink our operations, we rethink our marketing practices, we rethink our human resource practices, right? I go back to start with why, Simon Sinek. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. And his golden circle, what a fabulous idea he has in this golden circle. And he has these three circles: what, how, and why. Just quickly, the outcome. What is mostly outcome? What Simon Sinek says is everybody knows, or all companies know what they are doing. Many a times they know how they are doing, but most of the times they don't know what is their higher purpose. So it's not the purpose only, it's the higher purpose. And that's what Simon Sinek says in his book, Start With Why. Now, this is the high time that we re-examine the golden circle of Simon Sinek. That what is our higher purpose as a service organization in the present times, given coronavirus and its impact? Is it the purpose of the service organization making money, or the purpose or the higher purpose of service organizations taking care of people, healing people, right? We need to have a conversation around those. The fundamental question we are asking is, what is the higher purpose of service organizations? Even we need to ask how we do that, because coronavirus has changed the operational issues, how we are going to operate. You look at your pizza, simple pizza delivery, and they say contactless delivery, right? Now, what is service without contact? But in the present times, contactless is the new normal, or should I say the new abnormal, right? So we need to revisit the higher purpose of service business. So what should be the purpose of service provider in post-COVID times? We need to alleviate the suffering of the people, as we established that people are going through bad times, people are suffering. Alleviate suffering, elevate people's joy. Let us serve the need of all the stakeholders, starting with employees, customers, and communities, right? Again, borrowing from the healing organization. But why do we bother? Why do we need to bother about healing? Why do we need to bother about alleviating suffering, elevating joy, and serving all the stakeholders? And it links back to Freeman's stakeholder theory, where customer is not the only stakeholder, it's other stakeholders as well, right? So again, we'll go back to the traditional trust theory, trust research, that trust leads to higher customers' willingness to buy. And if we can rebuild trust, employees will be willing to work hard. But I'm raising a question, do we need a conversation on a different set of DVs, dependent variables? Willingness to buy is suffering because people have less money. Employees' willingness to work hard is suffering because people are losing jobs, people are taking pay cuts. So where is the willingness to work hard, right? Because the extrinsic motivation is reduced. How far can you travel with intrinsic motivation only? So do we need a different set of DVs? We argue in our work that yes, we need a different set of DVs like customer happiness. SOH, we call it share of heart, share of wallet. There is a plethora of research on share of wallet. We need more research on share of heart. We need more research on customers' well-being, overall well-being, right? We need more research on employee happiness, share of heart of employees and well-being of employees. There's a big research on service profit chain by Heskett et al., very popular, 1994 Harvard Business Review, which says that a happy employee creates a happy customer. Now here the employee is unhappy, the customer is unhappy. So we need a stakeholder approach to make all the stakeholders happy. We need a different set of DVs. So trust is the game changer to moving forward. It should be the focus. But how to build trust in service encounters in this new normal? I'm conscious of the time. Okay, we are doing well on time. So the answer lies in the trust triangle. Now, there are so many research. You just Google trust in Scholar Google, and you will see 100,000 hits about trust research. But Free and Morris in the latest book, The Unleashed, talks about a trust triangle. And I think that fits the bill of the present service providers in the post-COVID times. What they argue is we need to be authentic as service provider. We need to provide a logic. Now, when I say authentic, we mean that when customers or employees think that they are interacting with you, they must think that they are interacting with the authentic company. Now, just yesterday, it was all over the news in Australia that some of the big banks have been fined for their misdoings, right? So for the wrongdoings. Now, whether they are authentic is a big question for those banks. We want to raise an authentic image of our organization in the society. We want to provide a logic that so that people have faith in our judgment and in our competence as an organization. And we need to have an empathy, a faith with empathy, when they should believe that you exist as an organization because you care for the stakeholders, you care for the community, for the society. And with these three triangles edges, you can build trust. There is a whole set of tools in this book. If you are interested, you can go Unleash the Unapologetic Leader's Guide to Empowering Everyone Around You. Right? It's a beautiful book published this early this year. So the prescription firms going forward, borrowing from Berry et al. 2020, is we need to adapt and adapt fast. There is no place for slow movers in the present world, right? And we need to transform, service transformation. Now you think of a time when COVID hit, and I still remember I was in the third week of my teaching this semester, and we had to adapt. Within a week to 10 days time, we moved everything online. That is the classic case of service adaptation. Now here we are talking about adaptation and transformation. Transformation is not like making customers loyal. Transformation is making customers safe. Now, if you go back to the seminal book by Pine and Gilmore, The Experience Economy, in that book, the last value they talk about is the transformative value, right? Now, we don't have time for that, but if anybody is interested about transformative value, then The Experience Economy by Pine and Gilmore is one of that books that will help you to understand service transformation. But as we speak, all of us in the academic world, in practice, we are adapting in our own ways and we are transforming people's lives in our own ways. By cleaning the surfaces, by providing all sorts of safety measures. When I go to gym, I'm thinking, am I in a gym or am I in a prison? But I'm taking it in a more positive way because it's for my well-being. So adaptation and transformation are the two key strategies going forward for service providers. Now, again, we want to give you our take on this. Now, we propose a 3C framework for service encounters in Service Encounter 3.0. Right? Now, what is the 3C framework? The 3C framework is like this. In any service encounter that is happening as we speak, and that is going to happen in the future, in the COVID world, is we want these 3 C's as care, compassion, and conscience. Now, care for whom? Not only for customer. We often talk about customer care. It's not only customer, it's care for our employees. Compassion for whom? Not only for our customers, it's also for employees. It's also for our communities, right? And conscience. What sort of conscience we have as a service provider? This is squarely related to the higher purpose that a business or a service provider should have. And this 3C framework will lead us on the journey towards love. Because love has the power to heal customers, employees, and communities. So, what we need is going forward a new metric, a new DV, and possibly love could provide us a new DV, a new metric moving forward. Some of those ideas we are carrying forward from the book called The Firms of Endearment by Raj Sisodia a few years ago. It's one of those books which is an answer to the earlier book by Jim Collins, Good to Great, right? Now, consistent with Fisk et al., 2019 and 2020, the backbone of our 3C framework is treating people, that is customers, employees, and communities with dignity. Because a higher purpose is no purpose without treating people with dignity. If we really want to heal the world, we should incorporate love in the fabric of our service organizations. So what should be the strategy for service providers going forward, right? What should we do, right? Now, we should create a safe environment. Again, I'm borrowing from Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek said that people thrive in an environment which they perceive to be a safe environment. And safety is at stake in the present times. So we want to build a safe environment where people feel loved, people feel embraced, people feel cared for, right? We need a strategy where we can humanize our offering. In services management, we often talk about the core offering of a service provider. Now, what we are saying here, borrowing from an article in Harvard Business Review, that we need to humanize our core offerings. We need to educate about the changes that are happening. And if you look around, every service organization in their capacity are trying to educate the communities about the changes that are happening. We want to assure that everything is not gone. We will survive as a human race. So we want to assure stability. And again, I want to remind businesses and service providers have the capacity to save the human race, revolutionize offerings, and tackle the future. We are tackling the future. Think about the future of academia and how we are adapting, how we are transforming. We are in our own way tackling our own future, right? So what we call this strategy as a HEART strategy, borrowing from Waldron and Weatherby, HEART is the nice acronym for this strategy. How to do this? There is a prescription. We don't have the time to talk about in detail these things. So we are at the cusp of the emergence of a feeling economy, an economy where companies feel for customers. Companies do not exist only to make money, right? So I'm borrowing from Huang et al. 2019 in Journal Service Research, where they're saying that mechanical intelligence and thinking intelligence, and there is another type of intelligence called feeling intelligence. So what their proposition, and our research is very much aligned towards Huang et al.'s work, is let us give tech, AI, robots, and ML the thinking job, the mechanical, all the hard computing, algorithmic stuff, give it to them, the technology. What we can do as a human race, we have the heart, we feel, right? Who serve customers? People serve customers. It's not the companies. So humans will take care of the heart element, the feeling element, the empathy part of it. Robots are still 3 to 4 decades behind from having a feeling component. They can have everything if my information is right, okay? So what we are saying is that we need a future, no matter whether we have COVID or any other virus. What we want is service providers should work with tech and touch if they want to heal the world. Namaste. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjit, Dr. Sanjit, for your nice talk, right? Really enlightening and really setting the tone for our conference. Now we have few questions from our participants. I'll pose that one by one to you. The first question is, could you explain the role of AIDA model in service encounter?
AIDA. Are you talking about the IDA model of advertising communication?
Yeah, that is.
I think I would try to divert the question towards a marketing 101 or an advertising 101 textbook. They will do a better job of answering that IDA. But IDA is primarily linked to the linear customer decision making, awareness, interest, desire, and action. So any service encounter happens in 3 stages, right? Pre, post, and there is a service encounter. So there is a 3-stage service encounter. And if you want to map IDA, you need to go back to the consumer decision making where we are talking about different set like awareness set, consideration set, choice set, and others, right? So this is primarily these 4 stages can be mapped to the 3 stages of service encounter. That is pre, the real moment of truth, and the post, right? So possibly that could be a quick answer to that IDA model. But it's a very old model. It doesn't work. If my information is right, IDA has given way to other more nuanced models in advertising and communication. For example, hierarchy of effects model.
Okay, so another question, these are questions from the participants. One question is, what are the key parameters of service encounter? So,
now, what does parameter mean? I don't know what the participant has in mind about parameters. Now, service encounters are primarily dependent on one crucial parameter, and that is interaction. Now, this interaction could be interaction between the customer and the company, customer and the employee, customer and the technology, customer and the say the company, right? So all of these interactions. So the one key parameter of any service encounter is the interaction and the human element.
okay, so yeah, and how can, I think we have discussed this, how can AI and machine learning automate service marketing?
It's happening, right? See, I'm not a designer of AI. I always say I'm a user of technology. Now, AI and ML and robots, it is happening. Now, as we speak, it is happening. For example, like say, what would be the best way to give you an example of an auto? Say, for example, if you walk into Amazon Go, Amazon Go is a classic example of a smart service. So you don't scan your product, you just walk into the store, whatever products you choose is automatically scanned in your app, and you walk out of the store and the payment goes automatically. And that's what we capture in our research, which we call a seamless customer experience or frictionless customer experience. So you don't have to do anything. You walk into a store, you grab the items you want, and you just walk out. What is happening in the background is your bank account is linked to your retailer's account, is linked to the RFID tags or whatever scanning tags or barcodes on the products. So everything is taken care of by the automated technologies. So you are not doing anything rather than walking in and walking out of the store. That is one example. There are n number of examples. Automated cars is a classic example of such technology, right? Where machine learning, deep learning, and AI all come together to drive your car, and you sitting and working.
So another question came that, sir, in this current environment, can we say that rather than a physical touch as being a service provider, the companies have to focus on emotional touch? And even if we develop technology to a great level, will it be able to provide a emotional touch?
Yeah, and this is a great question, and this is directly related to the idea of love and the idea of human plus technology. You know, as we said, and you might have noticed that we are still 3 to 4 decades away from a humanoid having a human heart, right? Where he will feel. So you have all sorts of technologies which can do facial recognition, eyeball tracking, and everything they can do, they can respond to. Sophia is a classic example of a robot which can interact with you in real time, right? But one thing that is missing, and this is what I captured in the last slide here, if I can just pull that slide here. So this is where we say that we will give the thinking and the automation part to the technology, and we will take care of the feeling part, the emotional part of it. We still need people, and this is the emphasis of my talk. We still need people. We still need the soft element and the emotional part. And who can deliver that emotion? People, human, right? So we still need that. I don't know what is going to happen if I'm alive after 30 years. I would like to see how a humanoid with a human heart works.
Right. So another question that's, sir, what is that question one? Just, yes, sir, thank you for your insightful session. A question, will Industry 4.0 redefine service? Your thoughts, sir?
It will not, it has. I would say Industry 4.0 has redefined services, right? IoT. Now, I will try to take you or direct you to some of the work that we have done in 2017. We had a paper in Journal of Marketing Management where we say that how is Internet of Things going to change value creation or value co-creation. Recently, we did a paper in Technology Forecasting and Societal Change. There's a journal where we are trying to look at customer experience through the lens of Industry 4.0. So Industry 4.0 is actually transforming as we speak today, right? Now think of a pizza order. Now there was a time when you order a pizza on a phone and the pizza comes say half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour later. Now today, when you order the pizza, you can actually in real time track whether it is cooking, when the cooking is finished, when the pizza has actually gotten into the delivery man's bag, where is the delivery man, everything you can track through that app, right? If this is not the transformation that Industry 4.0 has brought, then what is the transformation? Where personification is happening, right? The service has been personalized as a result of the influx of technology. But we need to keep in mind this paradox, that personalization and privacy paradox, right? So to gain that level of personification, what are we giving up? And are we ready to give up? We never think that way. We just get the benefits of it and then blame Facebook and LinkedIn and other social media platforms that you are taking all my data. See, I'm not an advocate of Facebook, but the first responsibility, and I was reading a paper where someone was saying that everybody's talking about corporate social responsibility. Nobody talks about customers' responsibility or customers' social responsibility. What is customer's responsibility about his or her own well-being, right? So yes, personification is happening. Services are transforming for better, and we can do even more better if we have some checks and balances and regulations and so on and so forth, right?
Okay. So maybe one last question. It is, how can service providers create love and healing in the current environment where any form in interaction is becoming increasingly impossible?
Yeah. Now that's a great question. When you don't have a human touch, how do you create that love, that feeling of love? And if you go back to that beautiful slide that we borrowed from the Harvard Business Review, and if you look at this, humanize your offerings, right? Now, how do you humanize your offering, your core product? For example, you're selling a pizza. Now, how can you humanize a pizza? How can you humanize a product? For example, 2 days ago, I was browsing. I needed a gunmetal watch. See, I'm a watch lover, okay? So the other day I was ordering a gunmetal watch and my budget was very less. I don't want to spend too much. At the same time, I want a gunmetal watch. So I found. Finally, I got a good deal. I got the watch. The watch came. For the last 2 days, I had no idea where my watch is. So I wrote an email to the company from where I bought the watch, from their online store. And within half an hour or 45 minutes, I got a response. Thanks for your query and all. Your watch is being delivered tomorrow morning. So as I said, before this keynote, I got the watch. But in that email, they had a nice, beautiful communication. We hope that you enjoy your watch. They are not saying you like your watch. They are carefully choosing the word. We hope that you enjoy your new watch. We would love to hear from you. Right? Now, this is merely a communication between the service provider and the customer. So the watch is a watch is a watch, right? Nothing else. But how am I humanizing the watch? I'm humanizing the watch by communication, by interaction. So I can use technology to humanize this. I can use communication. I can use anything. So we need to humanize the offerings. And these are small nudges. So if you read that book called The Nudge, you don't have to do massive things to make a big impact. You can do small things to make a big impact. That's the idea of the book, The Nudge. So I would highly recommend you read that book called The Nudge, right? So that small thing, we hope that you will enjoy the watch. Was the nudge for me, okay? We would love to hear from you. Second nudge for me. Am I happy? Yes, I am very happy with the watch.
Okay. So yeah, so with this, so more or less we come to the end of your wonderful session, Dr. Sanjit. It's really an insightful and scholarly talk. Wholehearted thanks from MDI Murshidabad and team ICBIT for sparing some of your valuable time for us and give a very good insight to post-COVID service encounters, right? Impact of COVID-19. So thank you. And really it is wonderful. And also you talked about your this mentor, Dr. A.K. Rao. I had good fortune of attending some of his sessions as well. So unfortunately passed away this January. So thank you for being with us and sparing more than 1 hour of your valuable time on a Friday morning. Okay, so thanks. And now we'll move to the.
Thanks a lot, Souvik, for having me. And I wish you all the best for the rest of the conference. And
Yes.
I look forward to interacting with you in the future. Thanks
Yes.
a lot. Take care.
Yeah. So I hope that our relationship will continue. Yes. Okay. So
One of the
thanks.
participants asked this question: what is the parameter of an interaction? Relationship is the second parameter of a service encounter.
Yes. So in a small span of time, you have become a very good dear friend, and yes, and a well-wisher of MDI Murshidabad. We really appreciate all your effort to enlighten our participants.
It's
Thanks
a cultural
a lot.
community. I belong to Bengal.
Yes. So once you visit India, we hope to have you in our campus, maybe in the near future, not a distant future, in the near future, hopefully.
Okay, I'd love to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sam. Bye.